Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Get ready for Talking Heads, the show where expert insights meet world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Brought to you by USA Global TV and Radio. Meet our distinguished presenters. From the great state of Texas, longevity expert, award-winning author, publisher, and distinguished Toastmaster, Red O'Loughlin. From London, England, soul heart awakener, novelist, vocal coach, and artist, Dr. Madeline Chan. Also from England, the Harley Street stress expert, therapist, ambassador for peace, and speaker, Carolyn Heward. And from Australia, ICF PCC credentialed coach, entrepreneur, and leadership coach, Mariska Dupria. Experience their expertise, connect with their wisdom, and transform your perspective. Watch Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. This video and its contents are the property of USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. Visit usaglobaltv.com for more details.
Howdy, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And before I get started on today's show, back in December, I started a program where I said, let's actually start probably in November, October. Let's get ourselves prepared to lose weight and do all those things that our New Year's resolutions say. And I picked out three things I wanted to do. One, to lose some fat. One, to get rid of this thing here, which is still hanging around. Probably my biggest thing I wanted to do was to get rid of some visceral fat. That's the fat that's up against all the organs. It's not the stuff you can grab a hold of if you reach your gut, but it's the more dangerous fat that you have. And I've been measuring it all along. Toward the end of the last year with Thanksgiving and Christmas, I was probably about 15 pounds heavier than I am now. So I've lost 15 pounds, about 2.5 inches in my gut. So I've had some good success there. I really have not been doing anything for this, but I will. But I did go back over the last 4 years worth of readings on my visceral fat, and I'm about as low as I've ever been. I think it was April 2023 that I came down, touched about the same place where I'm at right now. And so from my perspective, that was the most important one, and I'm super happy with that. So let me go ahead and make sure we get the slides loaded up here for today's show. My topic today is aging sucks, and part of that came about because of my last visit to my dermatologist. He knows that I write books in health and wellness, and we talk about some things periodically. But he mentioned to me Dr. Peter Attia, A-T-T-I-A, in his latest book. I think it's called Outlive or something. I think it's Outlive. And he says a lot of doctors are reading it and talking about it. And I said, well, I'm aware of the author, aware of the doctor, but I've really never read anything as a book from him. So based on his recommendation, I bought the book and I started reading it. I'm about halfway through. And he's one of my slides today, so I'll talk about that. But that kind of developed the process for today. Concurrently, I'm working on two books, one talking about my experience walking the Camino de Santiago with my wife. That's an 800 kilometer, 500 mile walk across Spain pilgrimage that we did in 2016. And it took us 30 days to walk 500 miles. But that's one book. The other book I'm working on is actually called Aging Sucks. But until I started reading Peter Attia, I kind of know the direction I want to go in, and I'll follow that up here shortly. But it's something that I think is super critical because we have more control than I believe that most people realize. But the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and this show in particular, is live streaming on Amazon Fire, on Zizzle TV, on E360 TV, a couple different channels on YouTube, Android TV, Apple TV, a lot of social media. I have simulcasts on 2 of my Facebook channels, and a lot of others that are podcasts and whatever. And as always, all of my presentations are for awareness and education. Now let's move right along. RedO'Laughlin.com is my website. Red, R-E-D, O'Laughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. It's Red O'Laughlin, R-E-D, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N.com for the audio audience. And I can be reached at red@redolaughlin.com or red.olaughlin@gmail. And my books are available there. Most of them deal with some aspect of health and wellness, and primarily focusing on aging. Aging Sucks. The shows today, live streaming, can be found on the one of the 2 YouTube channels, USA Global TV. It's under streams, under live shows, under the playlist for, you can do a search for any previous show that's been archived. And then on my website, RedO'Laughlin.com, I have a section for archived shows. I'm a researcher. I have never been in the medical field nor the pharmaceutical field. My first degree is in chemistry. I have 5 different academic degrees, all in different subjects, 7 professional certifications. I spent 31 years in the Navy, 4.5 on active duty. I spent 20 in the reserves, went back on active duty. In my last 2 years, I got recalled, literally recalled active duty for Bosnia, another invitation. I've been fortunate to travel to 61 countries. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. But the underlying problem can get worse when you're treating symptoms. In a couple of months, it'll be 57 years. My wife and I have been married. We have 2 kids, 3 grandkids, and our 1 great grandson just turned a year at the turn of this year in January. Best-selling author, have 8 books, independent publisher, done over 40 books for other authors, distinguished Toastmaster. Part of my writing career, I published over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn. And reiterating, the information I present is for educational purposes only. And I was fortunate last year on the USA Global TV and Radio Network that a couple of my shows on the Wise Ones came in number 2 and number 6. So again, it's just very appreciative for the opportunity to put my value out there in the world. Aging sucks. It does in many, many regards, but it doesn't have to. I wrote a book a few years ago called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, How to Live to 100 Years of Age with the Body of a Healthy 50-year-old and the Mind of a 25-year-old. And I talked about 2 primary causes of aging, your telomere length and the human growth hormone degradation over time. And I went into a lot of detail. But there's also another, I'm going to say, at least dozen contributing factors that are major factors in aging. And so I decided, well, let me just go ahead and go back now and capture all the rest of those, and that'll be a follow-on book to my Longevity Secrets. But when I look at what is aging, what really happens, well, when our aging is, no matter what we do, we get older, and we may not look like it from year to year, but we get older. It's natural. It's a gradual degradation in our life functions, our mental, our emotional, our physical being. Part of it is cellular senescence. That means that our cells get older, and typically there's a program in a cell. It gets so old and says, okay, that's it, time to die. And the cell dies. And it may be refurbished with a stem cell. If it's damaged, it could be refurbished with another stem cell. But sometimes these old cells, they don't die, but they become what's called a zombie cell. And they're actually an old cell that's not working right, that's still floating around doing something. And it's just not something that it's helping us for our total lifespan. Sometimes we have DNA damage that accumulates. We have a metabolic dysfunction. Our DNA is not being repaired by our immune system like it's supposed to be. So you have this accumulated DNA damage over time. I mentioned telomere shortening. At the end of your DNA, there's a little spiral thing, and it's called the telomere. And every time the cell splits in two, you lose a little bit of that telomere. Well, if you're a smoker, you're obese, you have cardiac problems, that little bit of the tail of the DNA that loses is actually a big chunk. But if you're healthy, the size of that loss of DNA, the telomere, is actually quite small. So if you're in good health, that cell's going to live a lot longer. If there's a lot of other factors, the cell is going to actually have a shorter life. Human growth hormone levels decreasing. As a toddler, we are just cranking out that stuff. By the time you get to be 40, 50, you're half the levels. By the time you're in your 70s and 80s, maybe 10%. But there's some real simple, easy things you can do to crank that production of human growth hormone back up again. And sometimes we have what's called mitochondrial dysfunction. I'll talk about that very much at the end of the show today. We have inflammation attacking us all the time, oxidative stress. Lots of reasons why we age. And growing older affects everybody differently. I'm sure you've probably seen some people, and they say they're 75 years of age and they don't even look 50. I ran into a woman the other day in the grocery store, and I said, "Well, you're super happy today," because she's big smile, and she said, "Well, today's my birthday. I'm 88," and she honestly did not look a day over 58. But some people wear their age very well. Others don't. They're 58 and they look 88. But part of our aging comes from our genes. But a lot of the genetic issues is a function of our lifestyle. If we have a good, clean, healthy lifestyle, some genes don't get turned on that we don't want on, and some get turned off that we don't want on. So it's almost like a light switch. That gene can be activated or deactivated in some cases by the lifestyle choices we take. Our sleep quality, our stress management, our weight, our lots and lots of things. Sometimes our expectations. If my grandfather died of stroke at 49 and my dad passed away at 50 of a stroke, my expectations are I probably won't see 51. Well, our expectations drive a lot of our health because it's part of our subconscious mind. Mentioned lifestyle. Our immune function should be the thing that's keeping us safe. But sometimes we don't allow our immune function to fully recover and be good. How many times have you seen somebody, they're pretty good in their 60s, they get into the 70s, might be a parent, might be a friend, a relative, and then all of a sudden they get into their early 80s and they have a problem. And they never quite get back up to where they were, and they have another problem. And so it's like a step. They come down, they can't get back, and they gradually, over time, they can never recover from the last bout of the flu or a fall or some other aspect of something that happened to their health. Our nutrition, we hear about eating right, but how many of us really do? Exercise. This is something that I've learned a lot literally in the last week about that I want to bring up as we're talking down the road. Hydration is an issue. Sunlight's a major one that we try to avoid, but in reality, there's so many good things about it that we're not aware of, we're not educated on it. But the UV rays from the sun help us make a prohormone vitamin D3 that is needed in hundreds of aspects of our body. And then the infrared goes into our cells, creates melatonin, which drives our mitochondria to provide the energy that we need. The quality of our air, the quality of our sleep, our relationships, just lots of different things that are out there. And I'd like to bring some attention to some of these. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, health screenings. What's typically done? Well, sometimes you do your own. I step on the scale and I have a lot of different measurements that I can actually take, and I know where my visceral fat, for instance. I haven't missed a flight. I haven't missed an annual physical since 1968, and I had 31 flight physicals in a row. Sometimes we get prescriptions to handle something. My aspect of exposure to Agent Orange, about 5 years ago, up until 5 years ago, I had literally nothing I was taking. Now all of a sudden got some eye issues, got some heart issues, but things happen. Sometimes we need vaccinations. Sometimes we need better stress management to handle the aging aspect. Some doctors have gene therapy. Some have with a stem cell therapy. Senolytics is kind of the study of the aging cells. Social engagement, it doesn't sound like much, but it's such a super thing. If you're in your 70s and 80s and you don't have an active social relationship with people, that can be very detrimental to your health. Lifelong learning, keep that brain challenged. And obviously, it's just not your physical health that you're worried about. You're worried about your mental health and your emotional health because that all ties together. What I thought I'd do is pick a dozen or so what are considered the gurus in the aging business. And what are their 2 or 3 or 4 things that they're really known for? Dan Buettner talks about the blue zones. You got Okinawa, you got a little area in California, you got some other areas, Japan, I think, I'm not positive. But these are places in the blue zones where you have an exceptionally large number of people living to over 100 years of age, fairly healthy over 100 years of age. And what did he find out about the people in these different communities? Well, he found out that most of them subsisted on a plant-based diet. In other words, no animals. They had regular exercise, which is super critical. They had strong social connections, family, friends. They had a sense of purpose. They knew what their life was there for and what they were doing. And they had some method of generally overall managing their stress. And so from his perspective, you do those things and you're going to live to 100 and be in good shape. Well, maybe I'm taking that out of context. Maybe you should live to 100 and be healthy enough to do the things you want to do. Okay, so that's Dan Buettner. Walter Longo is somebody I've been following for a number of years. He wrote a book called Longevity Diet. I've been doing 72-hour fast for a number of years. It's called an extended fast. The reason I was doing it because it resets your immune system. I'll talk a little bit about that in the last bullet here. But he has what's called a fasting mimicking diet. And this is to address his 120-hour fast, a 5-day fast, in which case now the beta cells in your pancreas can be reactivated. And they've had a fair amount of success with animals, particularly on overcoming type 2 diabetes and even type 1 diabetes by being able to have the body create what it needs to get out of that non-functioning insulin issue that we have. But he talks about time-restricted eating, being able to do intermittent fast, being able to do extended fasting. He's also very well known for his nutrient-dense fast. If I'm going to give you a fasting mimicking diet, in other words, the food you eat is not going to be recognized as the body as actually eating. It's going to almost take on, well, yeah, I'm eating, but I'm really not eating. I'm fasting. So that's what his fasting mimicking diet is. And then the extended fasting, I think the longest I've done is twice over 200 hours. But at about 18 hours, autophagy begins, which goes on, rheostat, okay, 1%, then 2%, then 3%. So over the next 60 some hours until 72 hours, I'm at 72 hours, I'm going to be at 100% autophagy. Now, autophagy is cellular repair. Our body actually goes into each cell, repairs the stuff that needs to be done, takes the trash out. So you have a trash removal, a garbage disposal, and a recycle, all done for all the parts of the body. Now, not every part is the same. As I'm looking at various things now, I want to know, well, how about my neurons? Well, neurons are not typically the same as the rest of the body. And so not everything is exactly the same, but it's part of the same. And so the longer that you're in there, doctors say, well, if you're in too long, now you're going to have problems with your muscles and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm only doing this for 72 hours once a month, or maybe 100 hours. I don't think it's going to be a major problem on my muscles, but that seems to be the going story, and I'm going to let them stick with it. David Sinclair, Epigenetics and Aging. Epigenetics is our lifestyle. It's what we do to counter the genetic forces in our body. He has this thing called this anti-aging supplement, and one of them is a nicotinamide mononucleotide NMN, and it's basically a, a vitamin that's nicotinic acid. It's just beyond the normal one. Resveratrol, again, it's a nutrient, but you really need to have black pepper extract, piperine, with it in order to make it more bioabsorbable in the body. David also talks about a caloric restriction. Now they know in animals, because we have a finite length of time for most of them, you can measure the lifespan of this particular insect, this animal, animal, for lack of a better word. And I know that if I put them on a caloric restriction, 30% less food than I give to the peer groups, that maybe these animals live to 20 days, 20 years, but on a restricted calorie diet, they actually live 10, 20, 30% longer, and they look better, and they don't have near the number of diseases at the end of their life that the control animals had that had full meals. And he also recommends full exercise, regular exercise. And we're going to touch base on that shortly. Aubrey de Grey, SENS Research Foundation. SENS talking about senescence, getting older. His primary thing on aging is that if I can remove the aging cells, then that's one aspect of not being able to drag me down. Well, if my autophagy is working and I can clean the cells, and part of that autophagy is if the cell is not working right, it's going to be taken out of circulation and removed, replaced with stem cells if necessary. So he talks about stem cell therapies. Let's regenerate the cells that I need. In some cases, they used to think until literally just last year or so that heart cells didn't regenerate, but they found out that with some aspects, cocoa, 70% or greater percentage of chocolate, the stem cells for heart can be regenerated. So he's into a lot of gene therapy. Let's manipulate the genes to make things work better as we get older, and our bodies will be that way. Elizabeth Blackburn, telomere, that's the end of your DNA, that little spiral thing I was talking about. So she's talking about stress management to prevent telomere shortening. Telomeres are going to shorten anyway. You want to minimize the amount of shortening. It's kind of reverse thinking. As that cell replicates and duplicates, a little bit is lost. Well, if I can lose just a little bit versus a lot, then I'm going to be a whole lot better off. So stress management, lifestyle choice, again, eating, exercise also apply to that telomere shortening. So your healthy lifestyle, again, the diet, exercise, stress, and sleep. And also brings in the personal relationships. You find elderly, some people just want to be shut in, left alone. Other people thrive in having a personal relationship with others. And the ones who thrive and live to a long age and are functional are generally those who have good social support. Okay. Brian Kennedy, Aging Pathways. And this I thought was kind of interesting in his particular case. mTOR, mechanistic target of rapamycin. If I can inhibit that, I have autophagy on one hand that when I'm not eating, I'm fasting, I can clean out my cells. Well, if I want to be able to build a strong body and build more muscle and be better able to handle myself, mTOR is the driving function on that one. So I have two competing ones, mTOR and I have autophagy. Well, neither one we want to run total with. If I do autophagy all the time, I'm going to die of starvation. If I do mTOR, which all of us do because we don't know about it, I'm eating 2, 3, 4, 5 meals a day, and I've never taken time out to actually fast. My cells are pretty clogged up with stuff that needs to be recycled. So the mTOR, if I can inhibit it as if I am actually fasting, then maybe I'm achieving the same thing as with a fast. Again, caloric restriction, about a 30% cut back in calories, and exercise. And most of them are talking about exercise where it's a fairly high level, moderate to high, but we'll talk about that here in just another couple slides or so. Sachin Panda, circadian biology, talked about using our natural rhythms of our body based on when the sun is out time restricting our eating, our sleep cycles. But he really focuses on the fact that it's a regular time to go to sleep, regular time to wake up, even though the real world, I have extra hours of daylight and extra hours of dark, depending on the time of the year. But he also talks about our light exposure. And so I want natural light as opposed to incandescent or fluorescent. So to minimize the artificial light, particularly the blue light from our TV sets, from our monitors, from our cell phones. A lot of blue light out there that, yes, there's a purpose for it, but I don't need the overdose that I'm having on a regular basis. Okay. Rhonda Patrick into health span and aging. This is one I like because it matches a lot to do with Dr. Terry Walls that I also talk about quite often on her nutrient dense, nutrient rich. But in Dr. Terry Walls, she's talking about balanced nutrition across 30 plus different nutrients. But a nutrient rich diet, not talking about from foods, I'm not talking about from supplements, but from foods. Again, she's talking now about exercise, both aerobic and strength training, and the supplements that you need. So this is the first one I came across. So, I get 2 thumbs up for her. The other things that people are talking about make sense. But when I look at my research and what I've done and what I talk about and what I write about, this one, give me a thumbs up and a head shake. I kind of agree. This is the one that my dermatologist recommended. And the book, let's see, what was the book number on this one? Outlive, The Science of Art and Longevity. And so when I'm looking at that one, I bought the book, I'm about halfway through it. And he goes into a lot of good stuff. I think that his purpose in life from where he's doing, he's actually a better doctor than most when they're looking at patient treatment and being able to give good, healthy advice to some. If I had any negative at all, is I think the typical doctor's reliance on, well, we're going to come out with a better drug, or the drug mindset is there, the natural option is not. And so everything that is focused in there is focused on the fact that, well, I can counter this with this drug, or I can do that. So I still think he's good in what he does, but his focus, I think, could be a little wider. Again, just a personal opinion. But he talks about exercise, and he has many, many quotes on it. I think I may as well just stop right now and just take, because I only have about 4 or 5 more slides. But he talks about exercise being the prime factor in aging. He says, if you look at anything else that you can say, you track this one and there is your age. You can say that exercise in and of itself, beyond anything else, all the other things we've talked about, his belief is that exercise is the number one component to aging, healthy aging. And he talks about strength, stability, and cardiovascular. He breaks it down to 3. And the cardiovascular is the primary, get your heart going and stuff. The strength training, and he goes into the reasons why at the cellular level, why these are important, and the stability. So the exercise is something that's super critical, but he goes into it at a little bit higher level than I think most people can realize. So when you start talking about VO max, that's the ability to measure the oxygen in our body when we're doing hyper intensive exercises. So I'm running literally almost in a sprint's anaerobic, so it's almost in a sprint, but I'm converting oxygen. How efficient is my body at converting oxygen? Well, that takes almost a lab to be able to hook you up to put you on a machine and truly measure it. But it's interesting nowadays with technology, I can put a watch on, I can put something else, and I can literally estimate based on my exercise and the parameters my body is giving back to be measured, a pretty accurate assessment of what my VO max is. So if I know my VO max is here and I'm comparing it to somebody, as he would say, this is the cream of the crop for people who are going to age successfully and well, then I can measure myself. Am I on the bottom because I'm a couch potato and I never do anything? Do I have some level of exercise? But we have to realize that when you start hitting 65, 75, 85 years of age, we're not going to the gym working out like we used to. We're not going out, and doing things. So there's some level that maybe my exercise as a 65-year-old is going to be gardening. It's going to be cooking. It's going to be things that are keeping me up, vacuuming the house, walking. It's going to be something keeping me going, not just sitting down. And so those are there. But my strength, again, is important because so many times you end up losing a lot of muscle and then you just have flab hanging around, and it's hard to get that muscle back when you lost it. The thing that Peter talks about also is nutrition, and he goes into a lot of detail about how his firm, his company, actually does a lot of measuring of the people. Okay, you're low on this. Let's make sure we get that in your diet. Okay, you need to. And so I think from his particular perspective, he's doing more to assess the person than not. I think your functional medicine doctors do a lot of that. They talk about your family history. They talk about, what are you doing? And they are going into where are you at right now on the spectrum of exercise, genetics, et cetera, okay, what can I do to improve where you're at? If you don't know where you're at, how can you offer advice to improve? And he also talks about the quality of sleep. That's where your body has the ability to repair itself. So from those perspectives, I think Peter's got a lot of good things going. But there's some things that, why don't you bring in this other thing? I don't need this drug to lower this one because I can take this particular nutrient and lower it just as well. But again, it's not my mindset. It's not the way I was trained. I'm just looking for something that I can do myself and expect some decent results. Okay. Mark Hyman. I love this guy. He's a functional medicine doctor. I follow him as much as I can. I love his little short videos I see on Instagram. Boom, boom, boom. Just there it is. Thank you, ma'am. It's just the facts. But he goes into a lot of detail, explains why things happen, which I think is so critical. If I know why something happens, then okay, that's why I want to do that. He's into this anti-inflammation and the diet with a lot of anti-inflammatories, antioxidants, a lot of nutrients. Talks about natural detoxification of the body, a lot of stress management that, again, is kind of a detox in such a way. But Mark Hyman, I'll give him 2 thumbs up because I really like him a lot. Dan Pardee, sleep and metabolism, his specialty. And he's, like we talked about earlier, same time to go to bed and wake up, consistency. In other words, your sleep hygiene. Are you going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time? So that consistency is super important to be able to have a good old age and be able to be functional. He also likes the light exposure to regular circadian rhythms, the physical activity, support your metabolic health. A lot of decent things there, not necessarily covered in the same degree as everyone else, but encompassing. Now I have 3 people here: Jeffrey Hall, Michael Robosch, and Michael Young. They're Nobel laureates in circadian biology. They're talking about the regular sleep and wake cycles, the light exposure, natural versus how that aligns to our body's clock, and our meal timing, again, aligning with circadian rhythms, because in their feeling, if we're aligned to our circadian rhythms, like the cavemen way back when, you'd sleep all night, wake up in the day, the sun basically drove your day. Anyway, so my last slide, let's talk about a few things here. What did I not see on the dozen or so people that I decided to highlight today? Very little on fasting, and I think that's probably one of the absolute best things for aging. Why? Because autophagy has the ability to clean the cells in the body, recycle the things that need to be done. If you've never had a chance to have your cells from your brain, your heart, your liver, all over the body, have them cleaned out on a regular basis, repaired, replaced, recycled, then why are you expecting something to work well when it's just all trashed up and you have to operate in that environment? Our immunity, that's our first line of defense, but nobody was really pushing, what can I do to make my immune system stronger than it is so that I can keep it up? Well, 72 hours of fasting resets your immunity to ground zero. You basically have a brand new immune system. I saw very little on mental health. And I think mental health, particularly with some of the dementia issues on aging, that becomes a very critical item. Neurodegeneration. I've been spending a lot of time the last 2 days on neuronal health and how that is the mitochondria in the neurons. If I'm looking at mitochondrial health, which is, I believe, probably the number one aspect of aging, how do I address the mental aspect in the brain of the health just as much as I do the heart and the liver and everything else? So nutrient dense, nutrient rich is talked about, but not the word nutrient balance. And I think that's something that's super critical. If I have 30 plus nutrients that I need on a daily basis, those are the ones I need to be. Now, maybe I have some food preferences I don't like. So the ones I can't get from my normal food choices, I do my supplementation. But take a look and find out, what are you getting? Is it a good quality supplement? Breathing exercises, being able to get that oxygen in to the body where it's into the bloodstream and getting it into the cellular level where you're actually providing some additional help to your mitochondria to provide the energy we need. The thing we talk about, grip strength, it can be easily measured, but nobody's talking about it. I see it periodically. But the gait, how fast you walk, your grip strength are two very good indicators of how long you're going to live. Bone density, again, a major problem for people. We talked about stability with Dr. Peter Adia. But again, the stability is one thing, but our bone density is such an easy thing to control. But because of our eating choices, we allow our bones to be depleted of the calcium in order to maintain the proper pH balance in our bloodstream. Lots of natural options out there, but again, we're not highlighting a lot of them for aging. pH, something I've been a big proponent on for years and years, such an easy thing to measure. Our breathing, our normal exercise, our metabolic activity will give us an acidic, something less than 7.0, 1 to 7. And closer to 1, the stronger the acidic reaction. Between 7 and 14 is alkaline. The higher the number, the more alkaline. Our bloodstream runs about 7.4, plus or minus a little bit, and that's where it wants to stay. When our body is below 7.4, the bloodstream is going to reach out and grab calcium out of your bones. And that's why you start having brittle bone and other problems with bone porosity and density. But that pH also affects other aspects of our life. If I'm eating protein, fat, and carbohydrates, I am actually generating acidic conditions in my body. If I'm eating vegetables and fruits, I'm generating alkaline conditions. So I really need to be eating more fruits and vegetables than I am all other kinds of fruit. And if I'm having a lot of exercise, I probably need to be eating more fruits and vegetables too. Wearables, something that's just gone crazy here lately. I can put something on my wrist and wear some heart rate variability, my glucose, continuous glucose monitoring, my sleep, my fellows, my trends. I was watching something the other day on YouTube and it talked about the newer watches, like the newer phones. And this watch can actually be tagged to your daughter or son or friend or whatever. And it monitors you with your heart rate. It's just an amazing ability to do this, but it gives us trending so that I go and talk to my doctor. I can, bring in my record and say, well, your heart rate's going this or this. But I don't have any problem with glucose, but I'm actually seriously considering a continuous glucose monitor because of the value that it will give me as to what's going on in my body when I'm fasting, when I'm eating, what I eat, when I exercise, et cetera. So there's just so many things that continuous glucose monitor will do, but there's a lot of newer technology in some of the watches that are coming out that as a wearable, it's just blows my mind. So without my mind blown, I'm going to call it quit to today and wrap things up here very quickly. We're on the USA Global TV and Radio Network as Talking Heads. It's my show every Thursday, my third show in a row. And so please join me when you can. I am going to sign off and catch you all next week. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
Meet Red O'Loughlin, TV show host, presenter, and author.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Loughlin here. I'm a TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Red has 3 weekly shows every Thursday.
I've been a TV host now with USA Global probably maybe just a little over 3 years. Probably, I know for sure 250, 300 shows.
Join Red on the Corner Bookstore.
The Corner Bookstore is one where we talk to authors, publicists, publishers, editors, cover designers, anybody associated with the writing and authoring book production business. You have somebody in that area, I can help you with regard to getting your book done, getting it published, working with you on a cover. A lot of things I can help people with, and I have probably maybe published over 40 books for people so far.
Join Red on the Wise Ones.
On the Wise Ones, I'm looking for entrepreneurs, business owners, people who have wisdom, lessons learned over time that they can share with others. So please go to usaglobaltv.com, sign up, and join me there.
Book your session on usaglobaltv.com. Join Red on Talking Heads.
On Talking Heads, I take my experience. I fell in love with chemistry many years ago, got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never practiced chemistry per se, but I did get a chance when my wife was going through chemo to get back into the chemical end of things. I started looking for cause and effect relationships. I had been working at a company doing cause and effect analysis on failures in the field on various products that we made. So I said, why not look at the cellular structure in the body? The chemicals are chemicals. They do certain things. So I take my knowledge of chemistry and research. I write about it. I speak about it. I have over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn, most of them dealing with some aspect of health or wellness. I speak on that topic quite often, and the Talking Head Show is one that I concentrate my knowledge of health and wellness on in order to help people.
Red is a distinguished Toastmaster.
As a distinguished Toastmaster, I help people get their speeches developed. The presentation is something that I critique all the time with Toastmasters. It's one of those skills that I have. I can easily help you on that one. So from the position of writing, publishing, book coach, speaking, and being a keynote speaker at an event or virtually, depending on how things work out. But those are the things that I can help people with, and I have 3 shows every week here on the USA Global TV and Network, and please join me when you can. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Here are some of the books that Red has written and published. Contact Red at redolaflin.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting. We're building bridges and changing lives, one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.